behind. Bad bitches, every city in my tribe. Look behind. Booty dominate.
For having sex.
Why doesn't that apply to a 1-year-old baby? It's like punishing her to raise the baby and breastfeed the baby. So why shouldn't she be able to kill it? That's your logic.
It is not my logic.
Pro-murder.
Please stop pivoting and answer my question.
No, I'm testing your logic. I'm applying your logic.
I'm asking you a question, and now you're trying to attack me because you can't defend your own position.
I'm not attacking you.
You are. You were trying to attack my... Excuse me. Let me be more specific, even though semantics aren't your thing. What?
Don't be so emotional.
Why? You're the emotional one here. You can't even give me the space to speak because you're so misogynistic that you got to puff up your chest and take up the space because you're so insecure.
No, I'm just a top G.
You're not a top G. You think these are good arguments? They're not.
Yeah. Anyways, you made a giant false equivalency because a 1-year-old is a sentient, which we already agreed would equate to some type of moral consideration. 2, they're not directly dependent on somebody else's biological resources. And 3, you have to opt into that.
But they are. They're dependent on the mother to breastfeed them, to provide them food, to provide them shelter.
Formula exists. Fathers can take care of a 1-year-old perfectly fine.
And do you believe adoption is immoral?
To these exceptions.
Do you believe adoption is immoral?
I think if you give up your child when you can raise them, that is immoral. Yeah. I don't think you think adoption is immoral. That's a good thing. If you can't have children and you just can't, and then you adopt children, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a moral act.
So if you would you say a person giving their child up for adoption is immoral?
It depends what their reasoning is, but yeah, it can be immoral. If they just don't want to accept the responsibility of being a mother, then yeah.
You're all about taking responsibility. So what circumstance would someone abandoning their child be taking responsibility?
Wait, say that again?
You're all about taking responsibility and dealing with the consequences of your actions. Wouldn't adoption avoid those things?
That's why I said generally, I don't think you should give up your child for an adoption. If it's let's say it's an 18-year-old mother, she doesn't have any money, any wealth, she knows that she won't be able to raise her child in a good home, then yeah, I think giving up for an adoption, that's an okay act. But I'm not.
Why wouldn't you just compel her to take responsibility to get a better job?
Yeah, to not kill the baby. That's a bit of a difference, don't you see?
So it's really not about taking responsibility.
Why are you strawmanning?
I'm not strawmanning. This is your argument. I'm trying to understand it. Because again, whenever we ask you questions about your own argument, you try and pivot because you really don't have a consistent foundational approach to why abortion is immoral, why it should be illegal.
Because you're not actually responding to my arguments. You're just trying to do these pedantic little jobs. Oh, what's the definition of this? Oh, what about this? It's not.
Yes, I do want to contextualize things that we are talking about because it's important that you understand the words that I am using.
No, you're looping right now. You're not actually responding.
I'm not looping. You are avoiding. I gave you definitions, I use sentences, and you just reject them because you don't like them.
You haven't responded to a single claim I've made.
I have.
You haven't substantiated any arguments. You've just been making claims. You haven't substantiated a single thing.
I have. I've said life is worth moral consideration. It's valuable.
That is a claim.
Life is immoral.
That's also a claim.
Let's go with
That's also a claim.
Yeah.
Hold on. Substantiate that.
So you want me to define why is life valuable? So why is life valuable?
Yes. Tell me why any human life is worthy of rights.
Yeah.
Because it's a categorical imperative.
How so?
Yeah, anyways.
Do you know what a categorical
Yes, I know what a categorical imperative is.
Yes, I know what a categorical...
You have read more Kantian ethics than you have. Stop mansplaining. Now, explain how it's a categorical imperative.
Because if everyone, okay, if you take the categorical imperative and you apply it universally, if everyone was to just abort their child, then that would lead to a contradiction.
How?
So it's a moral on one front. It's a moral actually on many fronts.
Which would be what?
Where's the contradiction? That it would end
Because
the species?
if everyone, when they got pregnant, yeah, it would end the species.
Okay,
exactly.
then you have to justify why women have an obligation to act as incubators to continue our species.
Because, well, everyone has a responsibility to the human, unless you're some like egoist that thinks your only consideration is to yourself. If you're so like
that is
so egotistical, but no, usually we think that we like have moral consideration to society as a whole and our greater species. So we don't want to see our species die out and history end.
Wait, you still haven't grounded why this categorical imperative grants us any type of intrinsic value.
Why would I said?
No, so the extinction of the human species doesn't mean that we have intrinsic value. I could just make the argument that like we would die out to a very indifferent world, right? To a very indifferent universe. If like all women became like, hold on, if all women became sterile,
do you think if we die out?
Go on.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, wait. Let's say there's one woman left.
Wait, hold on. Let me just say this one thing. Do you think that if the whole entire human species died out, would you care?
No. Now answer my question. If there was one woman left on Earth and there was a man and she didn't want to have sex, do you think he can forcefully impregnate her to continue the human species?
What type of hypothetical is that?
Because this is the antithesis to your categorical imperative, right?
Because
so this is your categorical.
No, because that's a hypothetical.
Like continuing your species, like consent matters more.
What was that? You cut out.
Do you think that he could forcefully impregnate her if she was the only one who could continue our species?
Okay, why are you appealing to some ridiculous hypothetical that
I'm not. I'm literally just showing you how like you can't say that just because species
where would this hypothetical happen?
To do things.
Okay, look.
You presented the argument that if
you made a hypothetical
got abortions,
that if everybody got abortions, like
that's not like what's happening.
You know what? If she was a good woman, she would realize that she should continue the species, so she would willingly.
Okay, she doesn't want to have sex.
With that
what are you gonna do?
To continue the
she doesn't want to have sex. What are you gonna do? She doesn't want to have sex. Can he forcefully impregnate her?
That's a ridiculous hypothetical.
No, it's not. It's as ridiculous as yours that if everybody got abortions, right? So this is your category. This is hold on, no. This is your categorical imperative.
That is what the categorical imperative is.
Hold on, stop talking.
Yeah, that's what the
this is your categorical imperative in reverse, right? So if you believe that we should do everything possible, right, to not wipe out the human species, that includes forcing people to have intercourse when they don't want to continue it. So if your categorical imperative works in one direction, it must also then work in the other. Otherwise, you cannot ground it or substantiate it. And that is why Sanvi asked you that question, which you refuse to answer.
Because that's not a universal claim. That's not a universal claim that
yes, you can.
In this situation where there's two people on planet Earth, that they would have to reproduce.
Yes. Do you know what universal means? Universal means that universal means you apply it to everybody. In this particular instance, everybody is two people. That's what applying it universally means.
No, universal means it applies throughout space and throughout time.
That's not no.
Did you define a
that
word?
That doesn't make any sense, bro. When Kant made up categorical imperatives, he wasn't saying like, would it be more for fucking space aliens to have abortions, right? Like, what are you even saying right now?
Well, okay, let me just.
He wasn't considering space aliens.
If we could find a way to continue the human race with every woman still getting an abortion via artificial wombs, would you then be pro-choice?
If every woman got artificially
we didn't need people to be pregnant in order to continue the human species, would you still then be pro-choice?
Okay, so what you're doing is you're trying to wiggle out of like, because I just basically exposed you because the categorical imperative is correct, And you're saying,
No,
oh, but
you
what
didn't.
if
You
this, what
refused
if
to
that?
answer. You
That's
refused
No,
to
it's
answer
not.
retorts against your own argument, and now when asked a different question, now you're like,
no,
"Oh,
because
you guys are trying to
a
wiggle out of
valid
it,"
retort.
and you
You have
defined a word. Like you are the most disingenuous debater I think I have
like
talked to in a long
literally
time.
You're just not on
exactly
my
what Kenzie
level.
you
You're not
haven't
on my
answered a
level,
single
sweetheart.
one of our hypotheticals. When you asked us, right, do you think that like if the human species was wiped out, would that be bad? We said no, right? Because I am an existential nihilist. I don't think that the human species has any intrinsic value over any
You're a
other
nihilist,
species.
so why do you even
I'm an
think life?
existential
Now you just
nihilist.
really exposed yourself.
I expose myself
Okay,
to
if
what?
you're an existential nihilist, then you think life. You don't think life really has meaning at all. So why are you even debating abortion?
Normatively, no,
You're just
that's not no. That
disingenuously debating
okay.
abortion.
Anyway,
Yeah, you've exposed yourself. You're disingenuous. You're arguing in bad faith.
normatively, yes. Descriptively, no.
So
You know the
hard with
difference,
you.
right?
Oh my god.
Wait, do you know what a normative
Small
statement
dick
even
vibes,
is?
like-
Yes.
bro. Small dick vibes.
Like intrinsic value for the human species.
But I'm saying that I have a subjective value that I
What?
do believe I don't believe that there's an intrinsic value. There's no
Okay,
like
so you can't
intrinsic
back up
value.
your morals because your
It still doesn't mean that I don't have that me as a person that I have subjective value for humanity.
No, that's not how it works. Because if you're a subjectivist,
Are you going to tell me how it works?
Your moral compass, dude, stop
He's
interrupting.
not a
me. If you
subjectivist.
think
He-
that
You've been interrupting everybody
Can
this
you let
entire
me
life. What are
finish?
you saying?
Yeah,
Jesus
you
Christ.
just like to talk.
Just let me finish.
Honestly,
my
for
point.
somebody
No,
that
'cause you're, I'm
I'm good.
I'm literally 3v1. I'm 3v1ing
Oh,
you
now
all
you're
right
gonna
now.
complain about that?
Solo
You
squad,
signed up for this, brah.
solo
You
squad
signed
you
up for it. Don't
consented.
complain now that we
You
are actually
consented.
having
Take
arguments and you won't
responsibility.
answer them.
Take responsibility.
Take responsibility.
I can take
You
all of you at the
consented.
same time.
You
I can
consented.
take all of you at the same time.
No,
Yeah.
you
You're
can't.
not.
No, I'm
You
just saying that
can't. You can't.
the debate is already unfair, but I'm still destroying you. So at least you're
No,
gonna let
you're
me.
not.
You're gonna let me
And
finish
now
what I have to
now
say.
it's the
You're gonna at
Dunning
least
Kruger
let
for
me
me.
finish what I have to
It's
say.
the Dunning Kruger for me.
Can you just answer?
How
You
is
didn't
that?
answer
Dude,
either of
you
the
don't
two
know what
questions I
anything
posed to you because you're
say
so
means, bro.
disingenuous.
Okay, so here's the point. If you think that morals are subjective, then your moral values are no more correct than my moral values because they're all arbitrary. None of them exist. Morals
Wait,
don't
that's
exist.
that's actually
That's
so.
your
Wait,
position.
if Blackbird
So you can't
could
have a moral
outline
claim on anything.
if Blackbird could outline a like contradiction in your ethical framework, then that would make his more correct because you have yet to outline a contradiction in his because he's consistent. He said, "I don't value humans intrinsically." You do value the human species intrinsically, but you can't justify to me why that would trump consent.
No, morals don't come from like if your morality is consistent. It's if it's correct, if it's right or wrong, not if it's consistent.
So are you being
He's saying that morals are subjective. Morals
If
don't
it's not
exist, so he can't
consistent,
even
how
argue
is it
about morals
objective?
because he doesn't even have any claim about morality. Huh?
If your morals are not consistent, then how is it objective? Wouldn't that intrinsically make it subjective? Because it depends on the
No,
subject
my
you are
morals,
applying it
my
to.
morals are
No,
my
they
morals
aren't,
are
because you're
consistent.
saying you value humans intrinsically,
Yeah,
yet
they are.
you give an exception for people who have been R-worded.
That's for I'm talking about the law. How the law should be interpreted and passed. That's what I think.
So now you're not talking about morality. Now you're talking about the law.
Okay, well, in an ideal world, we wouldn't even have we wouldn't have incest, rape, or anything. So we wouldn't even have to
acknowledge
deal with
that your framework is inconsistent then.
Because I work in the real world, you know.
Do you?
And I
Because
actually
you just
like,
said if everybody had a boyfriend,
you live in
that's
these
bad.
abstractions.
Therefore, nobody should have.
No, not at all.
You're like into this uber logic, like in your head abstraction. So you never actually go into the real world and see how morality exists.
This is coming from the person who brought up a categorical. You literally started the philosophy conversation, and now you want to go back to like the real world. You brought up categorical.
Dude, you brought this here.
Let me tell you, if you want to start the philosophy conversation,
you're the one that's been pivoting.
You better finish it. Okay,
bro. Why are you projecting so fucking hard right now? Like you're projecting everything that you're saying that we're doing. You have been doing.
Oh, you guys were so calm before I hopped on, and then you realized.
What? I'm not a calm person.
Blackbird's never calm. What do you mean?
Have you ever seen me debate anybody? I'm not a calm person. I've never
watch the
claimed to be
debates,
calm.
dude. I'm not some like TikTok nerd that spends all my day on TikTok debating people.
Well,
Maybe you should because you're
Like,
really
try to,
bad
like,
at it.
throw out your
Maybe
dick
you
like you're
should
some
because you're
fucking
really
god
bad at
gift
it.
you.
Maybe you should because you're really bad
No,
at
I'm
it.
a better debater than all three of you combined.
That's so
Here's-
funny that
it's
you're
the
like, I'm not a
Dunning-Kruger
nerd
for
and do all this,
me.
but I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
It's the Dunning-Kruger for
No,
me.
because you're trying to
It's
you're
the
trying to
toxic
1v3
masculinity for me.
and you're saying, oh, what's wrong
Emmanuel
with
Kant is
masculinity?
rolling over in
We
his
need more
grave at how bad
masculinity.
you're explaining his ethics.
I
Facts.
said toxic masculinity, bro.
I'm so fucking cute, bitch. I'm so fucking cute.